Most people spend their whole lives working hard and still feel like they are barely getting ahead. But a small group of people seem to figure something out that nobody ever taught in school. Tonight we are going to go through exactly how money actually works and how people really make it. Let us start at the very beginning. When you are young, nobody really sits you down and explains how money works. You are told to study hard, get a job, and everything will be fine. But that advice leaves out almost everything that actually matters about building real financial security. The first thing to understand is that there are really only a few ways a human being can make money. You can trade your time for it, you can own something that earns it for you, or you can build something that eventually runs without you. That is basically it. Almost everyone starts with the first option. You show up somewhere, you do work, and at the end of the week or month, someone gives you money. This is called earned income, and it is the most common way people make money in the world today. Earned income feels stable. It feels safe. You know when the paycheck is coming and roughly how much it will be, but it has one massive problem that most people do not think about until it is too late. The moment you stop showing up, the money stops coming in. This is the trap that catches most people. Not because they are lazy or bad with money, but because nobody ever explained that trading time for money has a ceiling. There are only so many hours in a day. At some point, you physically cannot earn more this way. Now here is where it starts to get interesting. Some people figure out early on that instead of just selling their time, they can make their time worth more. A doctor earns more per hour than a cashier, a lawyer more than a receptionist. Skill is the first multiplier of income. So the very first move most financially successful people make is investing in themselves. They get better at something that the world is willing to pay well for. This might be a degree, a trade, a certification, or just years of practice in something specific and valuable. And it works. Getting better at what you do almost always increases what you can earn per hour. But here is the thing. Even the highest paid professionals in the world eventually hit a wall. There are only so many hours, and you can only charge so much per hour. So smart people start looking for the next level. They start asking a different question. Instead of how do I get paid more per hour, they start asking how do I make money even when I am not working. That question changes everything, and it is worth sitting with tonight. The answer to that question has a name. It is called passive income. Now you have probably heard this phrase before, and maybe it made you roll your eyes a little. There is a lot of hype around it, but at its core, passive income is a very real and very simple idea. Passive income just means money that comes in without you actively working for it in that moment. The work was already done, or the money is already working on your behalf, and now the income flows in without your constant presence. Simple as that. No magic, no secret trick involved. The most classic example of passive income is interest. If you put money in a savings account or lend it out, you earn a percentage back over time. You are not lifting a finger. The money itself is doing the work. This is money making more money, and it is incredibly powerful. Now, the reason most people never experience this is because you need money to do it. You need savings to put in that account. And when you are spending most of what you earn, savings feel impossible. This is the first wall people hit on the road to financial freedom. But here is something important. You do not need a lot to start. Even a small amount saved consistently over time starts to build. The habit matters more than the amount at first. People who eventually build wealth almost always started by saving something even when it felt pointless. There is a concept that completely changed how many people think about money. It is called paying yourself first. Before you pay your rent, your bills, your subscriptions, you take a small piece of your income and set it aside. You treat saving as a non-negotiable expense, not an afterthought. Most people do the opposite. They spend everything they need to spend, enjoy a little, and save whatever is left. But whatever is left is usually nothing. Life has a funny way of filling up every dollar you do not protect. Paying yourself first flips that script entirely, and it works. Now let us talk about something that sounds complicated but really is not. Compound interest. This is something that Albert Einstein reportedly called the eighth wonder of the world. And once you see how it works, you will understand exactly why that description feels so right and accurate. Here is how compound interest works in plain language. You save $100 and it earns $10 in interest. Now you have $110. Next time the interest is calculated, it is calculated on the 110, not just the original 100. Your earnings start earning too. Over time, this effect becomes enormous. Not in a year or two, but over decades. Money that is invested early and left alone can grow into amounts that seem almost impossible when you look at where it started. This is why starting early matters more than almost anything else financially. Two people save money their entire working lives. One starts at age 22, and one starts at age 32. They both stop at age 62. They save the exact same amount each month, but the one who started 10 years earlier ends up with dramatically more money. The math is almost unfair. That 10-year head start does not just add 10 years of savings. Because of compounding, it can double or even triple the final amount. Time in the market is one of the most powerful financial advantages a person can have, and the best time to use it is right now. But saving alone is not enough for most people. Savings accounts today often pay very little interest. If you are only saving and not investing, inflation is quietly eating away at the value of your money every single year. Your money is sitting still while prices keep rising around it. Inflation means that the same amount of money buys less stuff over time. $100 10 years ago bought more groceries than $100 does today. So if your money is not growing at least as fast as inflation, you are actually getting poorer even while saving. This is why investing became so important for so many people. Instead of letting money sit, you put it somewhere it can grow faster than inflation. The most common place people do this is in the stock market, and that word alone makes some people nervous, so let us slow down here. The stock market sounds risky and complicated, and it can be if you approach it the wrong way. But at its most basic level, investing in the stock market just means buying a tiny piece of a real company. When that company grows and makes money, you share in that success. Imagine a company that makes something millions of people use every day. When you buy a share of that company, you own a small slice of it. If the company becomes more valuable, your slice becomes more valuable too. That is really all investing in stocks is at its foundation. Now, of course, individual companies can fail. That is the risk. One company might do terribly, while another does incredibly well. So one of the most important ideas in investing is something called diversification. It just means not putting all your eggs in one basket, which honestly most of us already know. Instead of buying stock in one company, you spread your money across many companies, many industries, even many countries. When one goes down, another might go up. Your overall portfolio does not depend on any single company surviving or thriving. Risk gets spread out, and that changes the game completely. One of the easiest ways regular people do this is through something called an index fund. An index fund automatically holds tiny pieces of hundreds or even thousands of different companies. You buy one fund, and you are instantly diversified. It is a simple and surprisingly effective way to invest long-term. Index funds became popular partly because of something very interesting that research kept showing. Most professional fund managers, people whose entire job is picking stocks, do not consistently beat the average market return over time. A simple index fund that just follows the market often does better than the fancy strategies. This was a surprising and somewhat humbling discovery for the financial world. It suggested that for most regular people, the smartest move is not trying to find the best stocks. It is just consistently buying a broad basket of stocks and holding them for a very long time without panicking. And this brings up another important idea. The market goes up and down all the time. There will be scary moments when your investments lose value on paper. The people who stay calm and keep going during those moments tend to come out ahead. The ones who panic and sell often do not. History shows that the stock market has always recovered from downturns eventually. Every crash, every recession, every terrifying period in financial history has so far been followed by a recovery and then new highs. That does not guarantee the future, but it tells us something meaningful about patience and long-term thinking. So far, we have covered earning more through skills, saving consistently, understanding compound interest, and investing in diversified funds. These alone are more than most people ever learn about money, but we are only partway through the story. There are more ways people build wealth, and they are worth understanding too. Let us talk about one of the most powerful wealth-building tools in history, and also one of the most emotionally complicated: real estate. Buying property has made more ordinary people wealthy than almost any other single strategy. But it is also misunderstood and sometimes misused in ways that can cause real harm. At its most basic, real estate works like this. You buy a piece of property. Over time, that property typically increases in value. When you sell it later, you have more than you put in. On top of that, if you rent it out, it generates income while you hold it. Owning a home is often the first experience people have with real estate as an investment. Every mortgage payment you make builds something called equity. Equity is the portion of the home that you truly own. As you pay down the mortgage and as the home grows in value, your equity grows. After many years, a homeowner who bought wisely often has a very significant asset, something worth far more than they paid. And they have been living in it the whole time. This is why homeownership has traditionally been one of the most reliable ways regular people build lasting generational wealth over time. But real estate investing goes beyond just owning the home you live in. Some people buy additional properties specifically to rent out to tenants. The rent covers the mortgage and hopefully produces extra income on top. This is called being a landlord, and it comes with its own responsibilities and challenges. Being a landlord is not fully passive. Properties need maintenance. Tenants have problems. Things break. Unexpected costs arrive. But many people find that the long-term financial benefits outweigh the hassles, especially as the mortgage gets paid down and the rent income keeps coming in month after month without stopping. There is also a version of real estate investing that does not require you to own physical property at all. It is called a REIT, which stands for Real Estate Investment Trust. You basically buy shares in a company that owns and manages real estate, and you receive a portion of the income. REITs trade on the stock market, so they are easy to buy and sell. They provide exposure to real estate without having to deal with tenants or toilets. For many people, this becomes a middle path between the hands-on landlord life and simply missing out on real estate growth entirely. Now let us shift to something that does not get talked about enough in personal finance conversations: the role of debt. Most people think of debt as purely bad, and some debt absolutely is destructive. But there is a distinction that changes how many financially successful people think about borrowing money. There is a concept sometimes called good debt versus bad debt. Bad debt is money borrowed to buy things that lose value or provide no financial return. Credit card debt for vacations or gadgets is a classic example. You pay high interest and get nothing that grows in value back. Good debt is money borrowed to acquire something that can grow in value or generate income. A mortgage to buy a property that appreciates is often considered good debt. A loan to get an education that dramatically increases your earning power can also be good debt if done carefully and wisely. The interest rate matters enormously here. High interest debt destroys wealth fast. Low interest debt used strategically can actually help you build wealth faster than you could otherwise. People who understand this distinction use debt as a tool rather than avoiding it completely or falling into it carelessly and without thought. One of the most quietly damaging financial habits is carrying a credit card balance from month to month. Credit card interest rates are often extraordinarily high. A balance that does not get paid off compounds against you just as powerfully as investment returns compound in your favor. It eats your future silently. Financial advisors often say that the best guaranteed return you can get is paying off high-interest debt. If your credit card charges you 20% interest and you pay it off, you effectively just earn 20% on your money. No investment reliably beats that risk-free guaranteed return consistently. So the order of operations for many people on the path to building wealth goes something like this. First, pay off any very high-interest debt. Then build a small emergency fund. Then start investing consistently. Then expand. Each step builds a platform for the next one to work properly. Let us talk about emergency funds for a moment, because they are one of the most underrated financial tools. An emergency fund is simply money set aside specifically for unexpected expenses. Car repairs, medical bills, job loss, stuff that life throws at you without warning and without any regard for your plans. Without an emergency fund, any unexpected expense forces you to go into debt. You put it on a credit card or take out a loan. Then you are paying interest on something you did not even plan for. The emergency fund breaks this cycle and keeps small problems from becoming big financial setbacks. Most financial guidance suggests having 3 to 6 months of living expenses saved as your emergency fund. That sounds like a lot, and for many people it is. But you do not build it all at once. You build it slowly, a little at a time, until the cushion is there. Once that cushion exists, something interesting happens to your psychology around money. You feel safer. You make better decisions because you are not operating from a place of desperation. You can wait for the right job instead of taking any job. You have options that people without savings simply do not have. Now let us talk about something that dramatically affects how much wealth people can build over their lifetime. Taxes. Most people accept their tax bill as a fixed number, but people who study money learn that taxes are actually one of the most legally adjustable parts of your financial life. Governments in most countries create special accounts that allow people to invest money with significant tax advantages. In the United States, these include accounts like the 401k and the IRA. Other countries have their own versions. The names differ, but the principle is similar, and the benefits can be enormous. A traditional retirement account allows you to invest money before it gets taxed. So if you earn $1,000 and immediately put it in one of these accounts, you do not pay income tax on that $1,000 right now. Your full $1,000 goes to work for you immediately instead of shrinking first. The tax gets deferred until retirement when you withdraw the money. By that point, many people are in a lower tax bracket, so they pay less overall. Meanwhile, that full pre-tax amount has been compounding for decades. The difference this makes over a working lifetime is genuinely staggering to look at. There are also accounts like the Roth IRA where you invest money that has already been taxed, but then it grows completely tax-free. When you withdraw it in retirement, you owe nothing. For people who expect to be in a higher tax bracket later, this can be an even better deal. Many employers also offer something called a 401k match. Your employer agrees to add extra money to your retirement account based on how much you contribute. This is essentially free money added to your investments just for participating. Financial experts almost universally agree that not taking full advantage of this is a mistake. The tax advantages of these accounts are not loopholes or tricks. They are designed by governments specifically to encourage people to save for retirement. Using them is not complicated, and you do not need a financial advisor to start. Many people just go to their employer HR department or open an account online. Now let us move into territory that is a little different. Beyond jobs, investments, and real estate, there are people who make money by building something, a business. Entrepreneurship is one of the oldest paths to wealth, and also one of the most misunderstood in terms of how it actually works. Most people think of starting a business as something dramatic. A big idea, millions in funding, a startup office, reporters writing articles about you. But the vast majority of businesses that create real lasting wealth for their owners look nothing like that. They are boring, useful, and quietly profitable. A plumber who starts their own company. A person who buys a laundromat. Someone who opens a small accounting practice. A person who builds a cleaning service with a small team. These are businesses that make real money for real people without any fanfare or venture capital money or press coverage. What makes a business financially powerful is that it can scale beyond what you alone can do. An employee trades their hours for money. A business owner can hire other people whose hours also generate income for the business. The owner captures a portion of the value created by an entire team. This is called leverage, not financial leverage through debt, but human leverage. You multiply your output by organizing the efforts of others. The best businesses create systems where the work continues and revenue keeps flowing, even when the owner steps back from the day-to-day operations of the company. Building to that point is hard. Most small businesses require enormous effort, especially in the early years. Owners often work longer hours than they ever did as employees. The financial rewards come slowly at first, but for those who push through and build something that works, the upside can be extraordinary. One of the most important concepts in business is something called profit margin. Revenue is how much money comes in. Costs are what you spend to run the business. Profit is what is left. A business can look successful and be making a lot of sales, but still be losing money. Understanding your numbers is one of the most critical skills for any business owner. Many businesses fail not because they did not have enough customers, but because they did not know their own numbers. They did not know how much it cost to serve each customer or what they were truly earning. The businesses that tend to build the most wealth over time are ones with strong margins, recurring revenue, and low need for constant reinvention. A subscription model where customers pay regularly is often more valuable than a business where you have to chase down new sales from scratch every single month. Let us take a short pause from the strategies and talk about mindset for a moment. Because none of these tools matter much if you have deeply unhelpful beliefs about money underneath them. And many people do carry those beliefs without ever realizing it is quietly holding them back every day. A lot of people grew up hearing things like money is the root of all evil, or rich people are greedy, or wanting more money is shallow. These ideas seep in without us noticing and then quietly influence our decisions and our comfort level with pursuing financial success in any meaningful way. If deep down you believe that becoming wealthy makes you a bad person, your brain will resist the actions that lead to wealth. You will spend instead of save. You will avoid opportunities. You will unconsciously self-sabotage. The financial tools only work if your beliefs allow you to actually use them. People who study this area often talk about something called a money mindset. And while that phrase gets overused, the core idea is sound. Your relationship with money, shaped in childhood and by your environment, has a real effect on the financial decisions you make as an adult every single day. The healthiest version of a money mindset seems to involve seeing money as a tool. Not good or evil in itself, but powerful. A tool that can reduce stress, create freedom, help your family, and let you contribute to causes you care about. That framing tends to unlock better decisions consistently. Another mindset shift that comes up again and again is moving from a scarcity mentality to an abundance mentality. Scarcity thinking believes there is only so much to go around, and getting ahead means someone else falls behind. Abundance thinking believes that value can be created, and that the world is not zero-sum. People with abundance thinking tend to be more willing to invest, to take calculated risks, to learn new skills, and to collaborate rather than compete. They see opportunities more readily. This is not just feel-good philosophy. It has measurable effects on financial behavior and long-term outcomes for the people who adopt it. All right, let us get back to the practical side. We have covered jobs, skills, saving, investing, real estate, business, and mindset. Now let us talk about something that became extremely relevant in the last decade or so: making money online. The internet completely changed what is possible for ordinary people. Before the internet, your ability to earn was largely limited to your geography. You could only sell to people who were physically near you. You could only work for employers who were in your city. The internet broke down all of those walls and opened earning opportunities that simply did not exist before. One of the earliest and most popular ways people made money online was through something called affiliate marketing. You recommend someone else's product. When a person buys through your recommendation link, you earn a commission. No product to create, no inventory to manage, no customer service to handle yourself. Affiliate marketing sounds simple, and in concept it is, but making it work requires an audience. You need people who trust your recommendations. Building that trust, whether through a blog, a social media presence, or a video channel, takes real time and consistent effort. The money follows the trust, not the other way around. Then came a model that took things further: creating and selling digital products, an ebook, an online course, a template, a software tool. You create it once and sell it to as many people as want to buy it. There is no physical inventory, no shipping, no cost per unit sold. The margins on digital products can be extraordinary. If it takes you a month to create a course and you sell it 500 times at $50 each, you made $25,000 from 1 month of work. The same product keeps selling. That is real leverage in its clearest and most powerful form. But again, the challenge is reach. Selling anything requires people who want what you have. Digital product creators who succeed almost always invest heavily in building an audience first. They share valuable free content consistently until enough people trust them and find them before they ever ask anyone to buy anything. Content creation itself became a legitimate income source for many people over the last 15 years or so. YouTube channels, podcasts, blogs, social media accounts with large followings all became businesses. Advertisers pay to reach audiences, and creators with large engaged audiences can earn significant income from that attention and relationship. The story of content creation as a career is interesting because it looked ridiculous at first. 10 years ago, telling someone you wanted to make money making YouTube videos would have earned some very skeptical looks. Today, there are creators earning more from their channels than most doctors or lawyers ever will. But for every person who made it as a full-time content creator, there are thousands who tried and did not. The ones who made it tended to have two things. They picked a specific niche where they had genuine knowledge or perspective, and they kept going long enough for the compounding to kick in. The internet also created a huge market for freelance work. Platforms emerged where businesses could hire individual skilled workers for specific projects. Writers, designers, developers, marketers, video editors, translators. Skills that used to require a full-time job could now be offered directly to clients anywhere in the world you chose. Freelancing gave people something valuable: freedom. The ability to work with multiple clients, set your own hours, work from anywhere with a decent internet connection. Many freelancers earn significantly more than they did in traditional employment once they build a reputation and a reliable client base over time. The challenge of freelancing is that income can be unpredictable. You are still trading time for money in most cases, and finding clients is itself a skill that takes time to develop. Many people find that freelancing is a powerful bridge, but not necessarily the final destination on their financial journey. Some freelancers solve the income unpredictability problem by productizing their services. Instead of charging by the hour, they offer set packages at fixed prices. This makes their offering easier to sell, easier to deliver, and eventually easier to hand off to other people they hire to help them execute the work. We have now covered a wide range of ways people make money. But there is something underneath all of them that does not get mentioned enough. Most of the people who built real lasting wealth did not just find one income source. They built multiple streams of income over time, and that is important. Multiple income streams mean that if one source dries up or slows down, you are not devastated. A job loss does not destroy you if you have investment income, or a side business, or rental income coming in too. Diversifying income is just as important as diversifying investments, and the logic is the same. Building multiple income streams does not mean doing 100 things at once. That is actually a recipe for doing everything poorly. It usually means doing one thing well first, stabilizing it, and then carefully adding another layer. Sequential focus, not frantic multitasking, is how most people successfully layer income over time. There is a framework that some people use to think about this. They talk about active income versus passive income, and then further split passive income into financial income from investments and business income from things you own that run without you. Building toward all three over time is the general trajectory. But let us be honest about something. Truly passive income is rarer than the internet makes it seem. Almost everything labeled passive income requires significant upfront effort or money to set up. The rental property requires a down payment and management. The investments require years of consistent saving. The course requires months of creation. The accurate framing is not passive income as something for nothing. It is front-loaded income. You do a lot of work or sacrifice early on. You set something up, and then over time the ongoing requirement for your active involvement decreases, while the income continues. That is the real version of the story. This is also why patience is such an underrated financial virtue. So many people give up right before the compounding starts to show real results. They invest for 2 years and see modest gains and feel frustrated. But the growth curve is not linear. It is exponential, and the exciting part comes later. Let us talk about something specific that holds many people back from ever starting. The idea that they do not have enough money to invest or start a business. This is one of the most common financial beliefs, and it contains a grain of truth buried inside a much larger misconception. Yes, having more money to start with gives you an advantage. That is simply true. But the belief that you need a lot of money before you can begin is often just fear wearing a practical disguise. Most investment platforms today let you start with very small amounts. Index funds have no minimum on many platforms. Starting small is not just acceptable, it is often better than waiting. Every month you wait is a month of compounding you do not get back. $20 a month invested in your 20s ends up being worth more than $200 a month invested in your 40s. Starting beats waiting every time. The same is true for business. You do not need a lot of startup capital to test whether an idea works. The internet allows you to offer a service, test a product, or build an audience with very little money up front. Many highly successful businesses started with almost nothing in the bank account. What you do need is knowledge, understanding how money works, knowing your options, having a rough map of the territory you are navigating. This is why financial literacy, simply knowing this stuff, is one of the highest return investments anyone can make. The knowledge multiplies the effect of every dollar you ever earn. And yet, financial literacy is almost never taught in school. Most people graduate having spent years learning history, literature, and algebra, but with absolutely no understanding of compound interest, tax advantage accounts, how to read a paycheck, what a mutual fund is, or how to avoid high-interest debt traps. This gap is not an accident in many people's view. Financial systems benefit when people are uninformed. Banks earn more from confused customers who carry balances. Retailers earn more from impulsive buyers who do not track spending. The financial industry generally profits from complexity and confusion rather than clarity and simplicity. This is not a conspiracy theory. It is just incentive structures. The people who sell financial products often profit most when their customers understand least, which is exactly why educating yourself about money is such a subversive and powerful act. It is one of the few things that is entirely in your control. Let us talk about something called lifestyle inflation. This is one of the sneakiest wealth killers that exists. As people earn more money, they almost automatically spend more money. New job with a 20% raise, new car, nicer apartment, more eating out. The raise gets absorbed before they even notice it happening. Lifestyle inflation is not all bad. Enjoying the fruits of your hard work is a reasonable and human thing to do. But when every increase in income gets immediately converted into higher spending, you never actually get ahead. You earn more, but the gap between what you earn and what you spend stays the same. The wealthy people who built their wealth from relatively ordinary incomes almost always made a deliberate choice at some point. When income went up, they did not let spending go up by the same amount. They let their lifestyle improve a little, but redirected most of the new income towards savings and investments. This is sometimes called living below your means. It sounds boring and restrictive, but what it actually creates is an ever-widening gap between income and expenses. That gap is the fuel for wealth building. The bigger the gap, the faster the engine runs. Simple in theory, genuinely hard in practice, but absolutely achievable. One of the practical tools people use to manage this is a budget. And the word budget turns a lot of people off because it sounds like restriction and deprivation. But a good budget is not about restricting yourself. It is about making intentional choices about where your money goes, instead of wondering where it went. There are many different approaches to budgeting, and people debate endlessly about which is best. The truth is the best budget is the one you will actually stick to. Whether that is a detailed spreadsheet or a simple rule like spending no more than 50% of take-home pay on needs, one widely shared framework divides income into 3 buckets. 50% goes to needs like housing, food, and transportation. 30% goes to wants like entertainment and dining out. 20% goes to savings and paying off debt. It is called the 50-30-20 rule, and it is easy to remember. The exact percentages are less important than the habit of categorizing and tracking. Once you see where your money is actually going versus where you thought it was going, you almost always find opportunities you did not know existed. Most people are surprised by how much leaks out in small, unnoticed amounts. Subscriptions are a perfect example. Most people have forgotten about at least a few subscriptions they are still paying for. Streaming services, apps, gym memberships, software tools. A 15-minute audit of your bank statement can often free up $50 to $100 a month with almost no impact on your quality of life. Now let us zoom out a little and talk about something bigger. Net worth. This is the number that actually tells the story of your financial life over time. Net worth is simply everything you own minus everything you owe. Assets minus liabilities. That single number tells you more than your income alone ever could. 2 people can earn the same salary and have wildly different net worths. One saves and invests consistently. Their net worth grows every year. The other spends everything they earn and carries debt. Their net worth is low or even negative despite a decent income. Earnings and wealth are not the same thing at all. Tracking net worth regularly, even just once a year, gives you a realistic picture of your actual financial progress. It is humbling sometimes, but it is far more useful than vaguely feeling like things are going okay. Numbers tell you things feelings cannot, and they point clearly to where attention is needed most. There is a concept some people use called paying your future self. Every dollar you invest today is a gift to the version of you that exists 20 or 30 years from now. That future you will have needs, desires, and dignity that require resources. What you do today directly determines what that person has. Many people find this framing helps them make better financial decisions in the present moment. Spending $300 on something impulsive feels different when you think of it as taking $300 out of your future self's pocket. The sacrifice becomes more meaningful, and the choice becomes clearer. Let us talk briefly about insurance. It is not glamorous, but it sits in the financial picture in an important way. Insurance is essentially paying a small regular amount to protect yourself from the financial devastation of a large, unpredictable event. Health costs, car accidents, fires, disability, things that can financially ruin an unprepared person. People who skip insurance to save money are taking a bet. Sometimes they win the bet and nothing bad happens. But when they lose the bet, they often lose everything they have built. One medical emergency without health insurance can produce debt that takes decades to pay off. The math usually does not favor the gamble. Similarly, life insurance matters enormously if you have people depending on your income. It is not about your death. It is about what happens to the people you love if your income disappears without warning. Term life insurance is often affordable and provides protection during the years when dependents are most vulnerable. Now let us spend some time on something that trips people up over and over: the relationship between time, money, and enjoyment right now. Because this conversation about building wealth can start to sound like you should suffer today for a theoretical tomorrow that might never come. And that framing is not quite right. Personal finance is not about maximizing future wealth at the total expense of present experience. It is about finding a balance. Spending money on experiences and things that genuinely make your life better is completely valid. The goal is intentionality, choosing what you spend on rather than spending without thinking about it. There is a concept researchers call the hedonic treadmill. Humans adapt very quickly to new circumstances. The new car excitement fades. The bigger apartment becomes normal. The fancy phone is just a phone in a few weeks. Experiences, especially shared ones, tend to provide more lasting happiness than physical possessions typically do. This does not mean never buy things. It means understanding what actually makes your life better long-term versus what just feels good in the purchase moment. People who study happiness and money consistently find that financial security provides more lasting well-being than luxury possessions do. Knowing you are okay beats looking like you are okay. All right, we are in the home stretch. Let us talk about how all of this comes together across a lifetime. The financial journey most people take is not a straight line. It has stages. And understanding what stage you are in helps you know what move to make next without getting lost or overwhelmed. In the early stage, the priority is almost always the same. Get educated, increase your earning power, eliminate bad debt, build an emergency fund, and start investing even in tiny amounts. This lays the foundation that everything else gets built on. You cannot build a strong house on a cracked foundation. In the middle stage, the focus shifts. You have the basics in place. Now the goal is acceleration. Increasing income through career growth or business, increasing the investment rate, adding additional income streams, and protecting what you have built through smart insurance and tax strategy. Progress starts to become visible and motivating. In the later stage, the emphasis shifts again. Preservation and distribution. Making sure that what you have built lasts, generates reliable income, and eventually transitions to the people or causes you care about. This is where estate planning, wills, and thoughtful gifting strategies become part of the conversation in a serious way. Most people do not need a financial advisor for the basics. The fundamental principles we have covered tonight are available to anyone who seeks them out. But as the picture gets more complex, having a professional who understands tax law, investment vehicles, and estate planning can genuinely be worth the cost. If you do work with a financial advisor, the key distinction to understand is something called fiduciary duty. A fiduciary is legally required to act in your best interest. Not all financial advisors operate under this standard. Some are only required to make suitable recommendations, which is a much lower bar to clear. Asking a potential financial advisor if they are a fiduciary is one of the most important questions you can ask. Someone who earns commissions on the products they sell you has a financial incentive that does not perfectly align with your well-being. Knowing this going in protects you from conflicts of interest. Let us circle back to something we mentioned early on and go a little deeper. The idea of owning assets versus only trading time. The richest people in the world are overwhelmingly people who own things. Companies, intellectual property, real estate, investments. Their wealth is not primarily a function of their hourly wage. Every time you buy a share of stock, you are moving a tiny bit from the category of pure time trader into the category of owner. It is symbolic at first, but the habit and the mindset it represents are enormously powerful over time. You start thinking like an owner, and owners think very differently. Owners ask different questions. They ask, how can I make this asset more valuable, instead of just how do I make more money today? They think in years and decades rather than weeks and months. They tolerate short-term discomfort more readily because they understand the relationship between patience and compounding returns. One of the most under-discussed aspects of wealth building is the role of community and relationships. The people around you have an enormous impact on your financial trajectory. People who surround themselves with others who think thoughtfully about money tend to absorb better habits and get exposed to better information and opportunities. This is not about being transactional or shallow in your relationships. It is about recognizing that our environment shapes our behavior in powerful ways. If everyone around you spends impulsively and never talks about investing, those norms subtly become your norms. Seeking out people with good financial habits is itself a financial move. Books, podcasts, and videos on personal finance have never been more accessible or more varied. The information that used to be locked inside expensive financial planning sessions or elite business schools is now freely available to anyone with an internet connection and the desire to learn. This is genuinely new and genuinely powerful. Some of the most influential books on personal finance have sold tens of millions of copies for a reason. They distill important principles into accessible language and real stories. The ideas in them are not magic, they are just clarity. And clarity, when it comes to money, is worth an enormous amount. We should also mention something that has received a lot of attention in recent years. Cryptocurrency and other newer asset classes. They exist. Some people have made significant money with them. Others have lost significant money with them. The principles of risk, diversification, and not investing more than you can afford to lose still apply completely. The newer and more speculative the asset, the more important it is to be clear about why you are buying it and what you will do at different outcomes. Investing in something because everyone seems excited about it and you fear missing out is one of the most reliable ways to lose money. Emotions are the enemy of good investment decisions in most cases. Fear and greed push people to sell when they should hold and buy when they should be cautious. The most successful long-term investors are not necessarily the smartest people in the room. They are often the most emotionally disciplined and consistent. There is a famous story about a study done on fidelity accounts. Researchers allegedly wanted to find out which types of investors had the best returns over time. The answer turned out to be investors who had either forgotten they had an account or who had died. The lesson wrote itself immediately. Leaving investments alone and not tinkering, reacting, or panicking turns out to be one of the most effective investment strategies available to ordinary people. Doing less is often more in investing. The urge to act, to respond, to optimize tends to generate fees, taxes, and poor timing decisions that reduce returns significantly. Let us bring this home with one more big idea. The concept of financial independence. Not necessarily retiring early or stopping work, but reaching a point where you work because you choose to, not because you have no other option, where your expenses could be covered by your assets even without active employment. When you reach financial independence, something fundamental shifts. You negotiate differently at work because you are not desperate. You make career decisions based on meaning and growth rather than just salary. You can take risks on projects you believe in. You can take time off when life requires it without catastrophic consequences. The path to financial independence looks different for everyone. Some people get there in their 40s, some in their 50s, some not until the traditional retirement age. What matters is not the speed but the direction and the consistency. Moving toward it, even slowly, is enormously better than drifting away from it. Looking back at everything we covered tonight, the picture comes into focus. Money is not magic. The people who build it are not uniquely brilliant or lucky. They learned a set of principles and they applied them consistently over time. Skills, saving, investing, ownership, patience, discipline, and clarity. That is essentially the whole blueprint. If there is one thought to carry with you, it is this: the best time to learn how money works was when you were young. The second best time is right now. Every concept we talked about tonight is available to you, actionable and genuinely capable of changing the direction of your financial life completely.